Hey guys, how you doing? Let's do this thing. We'll do one. Come on. Hey. Alright, let's do this thing. I should be able to pick this this up here. There we go. See if I can't get in there. I think it's a draw. I don't know if I don't think there's anything else I could do here. Okay, we'll go over the games. Just checking this out real fast. Okay, so I was right. This was a move that should have been played. If he plays there, okay, we lock that down. He comes over. Okay, I gotcha. Alright, yeah. That was an interesting game. I made some slight maneuvering errors, but in the end it turned out to be a draw, so it was a blessing. Oops, I gotta turn this off. Okay, dokie. Let's see, what do we got here? What do we got? Okay. So they're using the Benoni pin. This is I noticed in the Benoni there's a lot of pins. It takes. Well, since we're going more towards close game. Man, this is kind of interesting. White seceded the majority again on the queen side. That's kind of different, isn't it? Huh. E8. Better turn off the engine. That's just computer analysis of what it would be. This locks down, this move right here locks this out from happening, so the bishop can't go to b3 or d3. This pawn really can. If it does, we'll take, and then we'll have a 2 versus 1. And in the endgame, this is an outside passer, so it benefits black in the endgame. Rook a3, knight c5, knight b4. I mean knight b1, knight b4. That's funny. Not knight. Rook b1. That's funny. Got this knight move because I knew he was going to move his knight somewhere, so I had the knight on the brain. So bishop to f4, alright, because this is a vulnerable pawn right here. Nothing's guarding it. So the queen just slips back, does what she's supposed to, guards and attacks. So this knight's doing a really good job of locking everything down, so I like black's position tremendously a lot here. Now we're going to see if we can't implant a knight, or maybe get a bishop here and implant a knight there. Wow. You have to have a pretty good calculation skill. Yeah, because if you take here, this happens. And then he has to retreat all the way back. This is a big knot in the throat of black. I mean white. Is there? Maybe potentially in here and up and in, maybe something like that. I was just looking at something. Now we got a passer, and this is a very deadly one because it's 2 squares away from becoming a queen. It's also protected by a bishop, so the rook can no longer go back to a1 because of a discovery. If the rook went to a1, this would be a double discovery. He could play there, but then we grab that. He grabs that, and we are actually up a whole piece in this line. So we'll just retreat out and be good to go. Oh man, now we're threatening to checkmate with a potential queen to g3, and then maybe even queen g3 if he tries to move. You have a check there. Queen g1. Wow. g3. Okay, 7. Pretty intense. Pretty intense. This is so he can. This rook coming down, if you're wondering what it does, it dominates the 7th, but it also stops the knight from coming in like this. Something like that. So, and then he just retreats back, and wham! Whoa! And now the king actually has a potential of going g7 at the right moment, and then after we of course played g4, pawn takes, king g4, I mean king g7, and then rook would be lights out for black. So the rook moves, and why not? If we can, let's pick this pawn off, get some material, get these two monsters a flowing. Hey, how you doing? That's good to hear. So f4, Kerplunk. It's like, just give us one. h4, and this is like major lockdown. Now black's totally walking all over white here. It's kind of interesting. He's down a whole exchange, but he's the one with all the attack. Pretty peculiar if you want to think about it. King moves, and then if takes here, how do we want to do that? How do we want to take? Because you have to take properly here. Maybe something like this. Then you have to come over. Let me grab that. We're starting to learn how certain maneuvers are important. Like, we don't even need the knight here at this moment. We could potentially reroute it in by going via and something, or maybe something like this, and then getting these two passers rolling. Yeah. Well, G4 is a pretty massive of an attack. You have to. And the engine's just like, it's just getting the king closer, bring him closer, like the Aikido principle, just bring him in, at the right time. That's what we're doing. We're going to be learning the London system for the for white, but right now we're going over the Benoni for black. Yeah, this is a really interesting move. Next is going to be king to g5, and that's going to be the linchpin that sinks the Titanic. Oh, it depends. I like both. I like d4 and e4. It all depends what your opponent plays. Once you get to know your opponent, like when you get up there in the ratings, you kind of can predict what they're going to be playing. And so you have to adjust to that style. Yeah, I mean, that's what Fabiano's going to have to do for the Magnus, the World Championship. He's going to have to learn how Magnus thinks, get into Magnus's head, and kind of learn the subtle nuances Magnus has, and he'll have to find if there's any weak points on the armor. They're gonna try to go through the armor, see if there's any holes, because if you can find a hole in a player's setup, you dominate. Like, okay, e2, okay, 2 takes, bishop takes. Wow, yeah, it's over for white now. It's all over but the crying. Oh man, you have a discovery here now. We have a check here. When the king moves, we come back and we pick this off. Wow. Well, now we're going to pick up this pawn. So either way, we had that or this to pick up a pawn, otherwise the rook. And boom. He moves. We just bring back now. Now we have this advance going to start coming down the board. Boom, boom, boom. Oh no, I'm just you know what? You know what? I want the best player to win. You know what? That's the whole thing. Whoever's the best prepared wins. You always gotta root for the challenger. I usually sometimes do that because they're the ones that are usually counted out. They say, "Oh, they can't beat the reigning champ," and so you gotta root on the competitor. As long as it's not for something bad, of course. You want it to be something good, like chess is good. So whoever wins, we get to study the games and improve. So it helps the chess community as a whole. Whoever wins. All right, and yeah, this is basically game over for black here. Well, like we say that whoever's the most prepared and whoever knows the most flaws about their opponent, like what their propensity is in their chess. Are they more calculative? Do they get confused? Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about playing potentially c2 here. I like c2. I want to see actually. Hold on, just one sec, Fox. I just want to see what the engine's move would be here. I believe it's that. Oh wow. What does this do? Oh, that loses big time. What about that? Oh, that locks everything down. Okay, so you basically got to kick this bishop out. Just hold on. There, it goes all the way back. Okay. Gotta remember that. Gotta remember that. No, it's actually I didn't think about this, but it's actually King G5. That makes more sense. Because if you think about it, just get your king closer. There's no weaknesses. Take your time. This is a problem for black forever. So there's no way that the rook can ever infiltrate. He can't even infiltrate there or there because of this knight. And if the bishop wants to retreat back, we'll be more than happy for that to happen. Oh, you can even have our piece, and then we get checkmate. So you know what? All right, let's look at the London. We will look at the London. Hold on, let me check something out. Okay, we're good. The stream flow is pretty good. Oh, it's kind of a little shaky a little bit, but that's okay. Wow. Yeah, this is very interesting, London, for sure. There's no knight to f3, bishop e2, maybe potentially queen. Yeah, this is more Slav. My teacher told me if you kind of get a London, he never told me about the London system. He says if you ever have a setup like this, that's what he told me. Which I didn't know what it was called until recently, the London system, because it's an older line. What you do for black, if you're wanting to set up kind of like a French, you set this type of pawn chain up here, so that if let's just say that white was to take here, you could actually take back, and now you have somewhat of a French setup. You want to play to more of your familiarity. Like if you're a French defense player, you want to play the kind of Slav against the London system, so that potentially if white makes a blunder and takes, you could take back. C takes d5, and then you get a setup like the French. Kind of odd setup French, but the French. So knight bd7 and bd7, yeah. Queen b3, and this because, and also remember, guys, remember this. If the pawn gets pushed, let's say the bishop comes out, pawn to e6, right? The bishop can never get back to c8. Or for white, it would be c1. So that's why the queens come out usually to b3 or b6 to take advantage of the weak b pawns. John Watson, National Master John Watson, talked about that. He says if you get a position like this, set up like this, you always want to bring your queen into play. This makes black have to secede a tempo, plus if the queen comes here, you can always trade takes and then play a3, and if he tries to push, you could take, and then play b4. You know, there's a lot of lockdown lines to neutralize the dark squared bishop of black. So queen c8, I don't like this move. I really dislike this move, but it has to be played. It's the only way to save. This is actually probably the best, better than this, because then you could potentially lock down that way, and then if he takes, okay, well, yeah, kind of a pain in the drain there. And you probably wouldn't want to push then. So b6, you wouldn't want to do that. You then can hone probably with that weakness with a4, or maybe bishop e2, then castles. True, potentially, yeah. Oh yeah, if he actually did this here, I know it right here. If you played this here, and then you played here, right? You can play that, and then here. Now white has a slight advantage because of his pawn setup. Yeah. So c takes d4, d5. Yeah, and c5. Yeah. That's actually a setup in the London system that can be played. It's kind of funny. It resembles very similar to what black tries to do on white on some of black's lines, but white gets to actually put the question to black, and that's pretty rare inside of the London system like that at that moment. You get, yeah. Oh, it's stellar for white. This setup is the way white would love to have every game. Every game I'd love to have a setup like this for white. This is like total domination. Black's pawns, yes, there's no weaknesses in them, but they're not advanced, and anytime we want we could play e4. So we're crunching, totally crunch, munch. Bishop e7. I totally agree. This is what a grandmaster would live to get. And then they would squeeze their opponents like a boa constrictor. And see something like that. Wham! First you take, we take, d5, takes, bishop check, king moves, and now this knight's still on pre, so he's going to have to take here, which now they both have isolated pawns, but black's king is totally exposed. This is not fun. You could still castle and have the open F file. So maybe, and white really can't castle now. But he does have more advanced pawn. So space is the key for white. And potentially he can go knight to e5. Knight takes e5, pawn takes e5, and then the pawns are reconnected, and you're good to go. So a3, bishop a5, and now the king goes to c2. We now have the potential of going rook ba1 or e1, and then king to b1, and then we can scoot the king to safety. And we can even put the king on a light square, because black doesn't have a light square bishop anymore. So this is actually really good for us. We probably want to jam it right to a2 and say, what you gonna do now? Your king, we were once weak, now you're weak. What are you gonna do? Castles, rook c1, there's no point to E1 anymore. So C1 makes more sense. You put it on the same file as the black queen. Knight F7 to F6. And then now we just castle by hand. And who's weak? Who's better? White's better here. More advanced pawn. King is safe. One move he can go to A2, A1, and he's out of any attack. And black doesn't have any points of entry to take scope on it. Yeah. Yeah, you could do. You know what? When the king was in the center, like this, I was looking at E just to provoke, and then potentially you can always come back to C1. Just to provoke a weakness, tickle the king a little bit, or the pawn. But we would love if this happened. Bring it, because then we could take back. If he took here, we could take like this and have this monster open file potentially there. We can even get this pawn pushing up the board and take advantage. A5. Black's going to try to go B4, B5, potentially maybe even A4, or maybe B6, and then, no, he wouldn't want to do that because then he would have isolated double pawn, so more likely this, and then potentially try to break the bind there, yeah. Yeah. So rook H E1. Queen C2. Yeah, I see what you're saying. C5 wouldn't be a good move. You can't play C5 because then you would he could take. Queen to D7. Bishop E5. Let's see here. King H8, G3, A4, Rook E2, Bishop to A5. Black's trying to maneuver around to get in, to kind of to poke for any weaknesses, but White doesn't really have any. Yeah, and then the bishop just retreats back, covering that. It's like, yeah. Queen to F7. Knight G5. And Queen G8. Wow, this is getting a little intense for sure. Potentially we'll go King A1, Bishop B1. So King A1, Bishop B1, and now we're threatening a mate on H7. King A1, there we go. There we go. Then if he didn't play that, let's say he doesn't play that right, we'll just make a bad move for him. Let's say this. Hi, you gotta stop this. And let's just make another bad move. First, you can take there, there, and wham, mate. Actually, not mate, sorry. So knight would take, well, sorry, my bad, if he played there. No, okay, it's not mate. Drat. I forgot the knight was here, and even if we tried to take, the knight could take back and guard that. So, that is a good idea. Knight F3. I see the idea for the knight. Maybe he's going to try to go h4 and then g6 and potentially maybe get like a smother mate kind of setup, but close to a smother mate. You'd at least have a discovery. So here, and then if he played a bad move, so let's say he plays a bad move here, we play there. We'll say we're just going to give him another bad move. Then we do a here, he moves, and then you grab the queen. So that'd be the optimum. Knight to f7. Alright, now we're starting our advance. I think they're threatening mate there. That's interesting. I was wondering why he didn't play here though. I think then he can guard that. Yeah, that makes more sense now. h4. Okay, so boy, we're putting the squeeze on him. So g6, and then we retreat back. So wow, we have, see how the you see how that the computer doesn't fear moving back. If it sees that there is a weakness, it'll just move right back to take a scope on it. So we have to remember to not be too proud to move back. And if there's a weakness, move back and grab it. You know, I mean, some of the greatest grandmasters are able to do that. Bobby was known for doing that as well. Knight to f5. Knight takes f5. G takes f5, and now this pawn is going to fall. There's not enough time for another piece to come over and protect it. So bishop takes, wham. And then now we bring the rook up. So we just popped a pawn. We got one. We grabbed a pawn. Don't get overconfident. Play that, because you never know what potentially might happen. It might come out to see. Look at, and you lose a piece. So just be careful, because these type of mistakes do happen. Okay. So don't think you could just attack the queen yet. That's the old pin and win trick. You don't want to fall for that. That would be a sad state of affair there. Rook C. Now this actually does have teeth, because it's not, this rook protects the queen. So if we took here and the queen took, bishop takes, the rook is attacking the rook, not the rook attacking the queen. So rook A, yeah, so boom, there we go, wham, pawn number 2, see you later, alligator. The king comes up, now it's protected by the bishop, so there's no weak points. Now we have our rooks, as Yasser and Maurice Ashley would say, they're sniffing around the king's position, trying to find the best point of entry for the attack. Queen to d1. Rook f7, takes and takes. Now we have a bishop that's under fire and a pawn that's under fire right through it. So we could play f4. You don't want to get too greedy because you might get yourself into some trouble with potentially. And then now you're in the socket here. So maybe white can play that way. But why not get your pawn a rolling, right? Principle. Takes, bishop takes. This just helps. And then f5. Now your bishop's protected, and you can go and attack this pawn. So b5 it had to be played. I know this would be tempting to play, but remember, we all have weaknesses. So we do have enough pawns for it, so maybe it's okay. We could play bishop there. If we get the pawn rolling, now we could be threatening. And so if you go something like this, we check. Boom. So just gotta be very careful with your move sequences. Takes. And now white is totally dominating here. This isn't a very good move because it just helps white just get more pawn moves down the board. So don't think that's a good move. You got to be careful with that. Now look at that. That's just crushing. King gets involved. There we go. Just keep moving. Wow. So which pawn storm do you want to do now? That's total domination. You gotta love that. Gotta love that one. Alright. Let's do some of our London versus the Benoni. So f4, knight f5, c, c6, knight takes, c takes d4, c takes d4, and then or d5, c takes d5, not c takes d4. Now d4, and then f5, f6, sorry, knight c3, knight c6. I remember you could get this position through. He says there's another setup that you can get this position through. If you wanted to kind of go more classic setup for the London system, there's a lot of different ways you can get this set up. Alright, says there's even one more. If you go, oops, d4, and he can even go c4 at this moment. The old defense of the Benoni. c3, c takes, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c, and then c6. So you can go through a different way. You could do the exchange Slav or the old Benoni kind of setup. So that's another way to get to this position here. Right here. So bishop f. There's e6. There's also a potential other line. The a6 is a commonly played here. But then what we can actually do is play rook to c1, and rook c1 is a dominating, it takes over the c file, and we're the first one there. And now there's, he could play bishop to f5, we play e3, he plays rook c8, exclam, because now he's challenging the system. This leads to more of a draw. So there's 9 is bishop to e7 or e2, played knight e5, exclam. This was a game between our author and Vara Kobian. Let's see here, what am I missing? Oh, queen to b3, there we go. And then this is a sub variation, continuation that he worked through. Surprisingly, a5 looks more like a challenging move, but it's actually a slight inaccurate move. a4 check is an exclam. It says, "Are you sure you're protected?" And c6 is a double question mark. This is a blunder. Huge blunder. White wins. Let me see. I want to make sure I put this in right. There. Hold on, let me make sure I got this right. a5, a4. Oh, my bad. I missed. This is actually that was the move. There's also this line here, which is what we talked about, the double question mark setup. So we played bishop takes check, a takes b, queen takes check. Did I miss 6 I missed. There's something here I missed in my notes. Just one second. Give me a sec. Let me work through this line. I think I wrote it down, or I might have wrote it down. There. So far, looks like good. There's okay, bishop there. Ah, that's the move right here. I knew I missed something. It's not this move. Oh, my silly there. Nope, it's not white to move. Okay. It's just, they said instead of this move here, which is you can actually play knight. This is for white. I knew there was a sitch. There's also a more passive line of that. So this is actually the continuation here. Got it now. a6, queen b6. There we go. There we go. Now we're right on track. Had to look back at the book just for a second to make sure the notes were right. Okay, there. This is a mistake, because I was wondering why when that was played check, this moved back and this was a double question. Now it makes more sense. Knight takes. Knight takes knight. There, this is actually what was played here. that could be played. Then what you do is you can, oops, my bad, wrong line again. There we go. Now I got the right line this time. Had to follow it correctly. Okay, rook takes C. There we go. And then bishop takes, and wham. And now this is totally winning. Because if he takes here, we pick off a rook. So we've won a pawn. So A. So there. Instead of back, we played C5. Bishop takes C5. A takes C5. Queen takes C5. E7. Castles. There's that's a line, and this knight's gonna fall, and the king's exposed. So we're actually really, he's going down in flames. There's a subline, which this is, we're gonna promote this. This is kind of the main setup line. So 10. Move 10 instead of A5. There's knight takes E5, which is the most correct line in that setup. So bishop takes. You don't want to take with the pawn in that, because you want to keep your bishop more active. And it may seem tempting to do that, but just keep that in mind. Weigh the advantages. So queen to E7, bishop takes knight, J takes, and then queen E2. The author said he'd be happy here. Now on move 7, this is line B. There were two lines that we this move right here is more unbalanced, and if you like unbalanced positions, this is the route to go. But if you kind of want more stable, this would be more of a setup for you for black. And then we basically just set up our London system, kind of odd setup of the London. Bishop D6, trying to take scope on it, and then we retreat back. He castles. Bishop D3 to eyeball the H7. Rook E8. There's no reason to take. And then knight E5. F8 was played here. Castles, and then bishop to wait a second, not there. Bishop D. This is actually a dubious move, though. What's the point of the move? There really is. I don't really see a point to it. So F4, that just cements more. This is more of a Kramnik kind of setup. He loves these kind of binds. Rook C8, H4 to pin the queen. That's the point. And then bishop to E7. Surprisingly, this is a mistake. This isn't the best move. Bishop takes is actually a really strong move. It draws out the bishop, and then you actually go for a Greek sacrifice. This turns out to be a very strong Greek sacrifice. surprisingly. Because if he takes here and he tries to retreat back, you can start picking off things. He comes up, you can actually just grab that setup right there. You just pick a piece up. Now you're attacking the bishop, and if that comes, you first check. He has to go back, and then now you just grab that bishop, and then you come in. If he tries to move, you just grab. Oops, sorry, you can't grab there. That'd be a bad move, blunder. We don't do that. Where did the thing stop? 16. 16. Okay, and this is actually totally winning here. So let's go back here, and then bishop d6 could be played. There's also a this is more Grandmaster Simon Williams says this is more of a passive line for black, and he says that he would love for his opponents always to play bishop to e7, because then we actually get to set up potential Greek sacrifice in the castles, and you could play at this point h4 and go for a pretty tremendous attack. If you're more positional, rook to c1 is played. That's kind of a idea. You either have that or that. So bishop d7, 95. Oh, we're setting up for this. This is a really interesting line. I hope this is the line that Grandmaster Simon Williams talked about, because I want to show this to you. It's pretty cool. Knight takes. Nope. It takes. e4, exclam. Knight takes. D takes. And then bishop takes e4. a5 check. No, not a5 check. Hold on, what did I... Oh, my bad there. So 24. Takes e4. Oh, queen a5 check. Yes, okay. Ah, king e2. I don't know why. I thought I saw castles. I was like, that's not legal. That can't be legal. Oops, a little too far. There we go. Keep it right on there. And this also has a threat. Of course, you, my chess friends, also know that this would be a tremendous blunder to let that happen. So rather than playing knight takes, the best setup is actually e takes. Oops, what am I missing here? Move 11, move 11. Bishop takes. There we go. Had to find the right move spot. This is much better. I have to constantly remember that. Keep that in mind. Then a5, queen a5. Then we castle. b5, a3. Rook f to c1. Now here we go. Queen And now we're taking scope on the b5 pawn here. B4, a takes, queen takes, and then f4. This allows white to roll forward on the queen side. This is more positional setup. This is kind of what the Karpovs, the Kramniks would play. More positional players would play this way. So if you're positional, you want to lock down the position and squeeze, and show no mercy. Takes. He said that potentially you, rather than takes, you could just retreat back. Do what the grandmasters usually do, and then if the bishop wants to take, there, we just take back and we have this open file. Or you could play more positionally and just take. Queen takes, d5, bishop d3. And we got rid of his good bishop for our bad bishop. Castles. Rook f1. White castled. E5, which is a mistake. Black agreed to have an isolated pawn here to free his game up. However, with the dark square bishops off the board, it's a really bad plan. He's saying that potentially best might have been to have played b6 and then try to fianchetto his bishop and then maybe play e5, because then we could have played a3 and then tried for a b4, bishop b7 like we talked about, b4 like we talked about, and rook f c1. This is more, white gets in a less advantage here. This potentially could lead to a draw, because black doesn't have any weaknesses, white doesn't have any weaknesses, and kind of boring position. But he tried at this moment really efficiently to take takes. Now he takes e5. Then we just retreat the bishop back, because remember, we have a good bishop and he has a bad bishop. And this bishop 2 squares away from like this, the bishop dominates the knight. See, it takes away his only jumping squares. He'd have to retreat back. Rook d8. Knight takes, queen takes, and then a4, which is a exclam move. Don't be fooled that actually a4. Let me see. Oh yeah, a4 is a good move. Queen, bishop to d. 7's and also a good move, not an exclam, but a good move. It kind of connects the rooks. Don't get tempted to kind of try to undo the isolated pawn, because this only leads to a very bad position with rook there, because this bishop is blocking this other rook. So in theory, there's a potential back rank mate, or you'll win a. So if he plays like this, you pick up, even if, and then it's your move and you can just grab that like that. So just don't get too tempted to try to get rid of that weakness. Try to find a way to, but don't just do it at the cost of your position. 17. Okay, let's take a look to see what white has in its favor. White has accomplished 3 advantages. Number 1, he controls the d4 square, and subsequently the majority of the dark squares are dominated by him as well. 2, he's created an isolated pawn on d5 for black. And 3, black is burdened down with his bad bishop, and white has a light square bishop. So we control d4, and the dark squares are somewhat under our control. We stuck him with an isolated d pawn, and his bishop is bad because the pawn on d5. So knight e, d, and queen to e6, and bishop to f3. Knight takes, which is a dubious. Trading off only benefits white here, because remember, the more pieces that come off the board, the closer we get to an endgame, and the weaker this pawn gets. The d pawn gets weaker. So if we got rid of all these pieces here, and we left white with this here, this is all that was left. White and black had these here and that. This would be a sore thumb for the rest of the game for black to have to deal with this right here. So trading only helps white. So queen takes, e6, d3, queen d3. So we're taking scope on this. Potentially one more rook would come, and we can pick it off. f6, rook c3. Let me see, rook c3, g6, h3 to give flight square to the king. g5, queen d1, and this prepares for a4, b4, and then potentially maybe even trapping the bishop. So a4 exclam, bang. Let's see, where am I? What number am I in? Okay. Okay. And the intent is to go b4, queen to b3, and then push and trap this bishop here. So h5. a5 is a dubious move. This is actually dubious. Not interesting. Sorry guys, hold on. There we go. Dubious. Because you're offering another target for black to take scope on. I mean white, not black. What am I thinking? Black's offering white another target for basically target practice. Because then we can actually play rook to c5 and say to black, what did you just do now? This is gonna be a problem, and we're gonna play bishop e4 and potentially just take over this. So a4 and h5 was kind of the only playable moves. Rook a, d8, queen b3, rook d6, and then this is an interesting move. I forgot to put that in there. Perhaps a more slower type of squeeze would have been b5, a takes b5, a takes b5, bishop d7, and rook takes, rook takes. Now there's queen takes or bishop takes. So let's look at queen takes first. Queen takes, bishop takes b5, Bishop takes b7, and black gets excellent drawing chances from this line. So let's see what happens if he takes with the bishop. Bishop takes h3. Bishop takes pawn, because it's the bishop guards this pawn, so you don't have to worry about that. e7 or e6. Queen b1 to guard the back rank, and rook to d2. Black may soon generate. There we go. Generate threats with his queen and rook. So potentially better. So rook cd3 is an interesting move. Then there's b5. It's fixing the pawns on the same colors. You really don't want to do that. Potentially b6 might have been a better idea, with trying to go a5 and maybe fixing white's pawns on the light squares. So, you know, maybe white would try to go a5 and then something like that, but I think it's a little bit more hard for you could just take and then take. Still, yeah, it's difficult for black to play here. Black's getting all bound up. a5 in his position, of course. See, rook c3, bishop e7, bishop to e7, and then c2. Sorry, bishop c2, queen c2, bishop. I don't know why I'm thinking bishop. I'm thinking bishop for next move because of this pawn here potentially maybe an attack. So rook to defend. Now black's all locked down. We just bring more pieces in. White has an advantage to continue to grow his strength. His strength of the C file. He's going to continue to keep growing and growing, and slowly he'll take over the whole entire board using his C file. Queen e7, h4 to lock that down. King g7, and then g3. And now let's look. And there's still a big problem here. If you look, every single pawn is on the best square for white, if you want to think about it. Because if all these, let's say that all these came off the board, white stands much better to have a winning position with his pawns being on the opposite color of his bishop. All black's pawns are on light squares, so these are all targets for the bishop. So d6, bishop g2. This makes it so that the bishop won't ever be under fire, and it also gives the ability for more of a, it can rotate in to guard there. If we're ever able to pick this off, it can rotate down to f1 and attack the b5 the pawn. So, and it also still has the threat of this diagonal, so that's a stellar move. f5, which this weakens the king side. It stops e4 though, so in black's mind it's kind of worth it, but better would have potentially been, and this is kind of, he'd have to go passive. It's kind of against the human nature to kind of have a passive position, but queen b2, queen and bishop b7, who would want to go back and forth and wait? You're kind of having to wait and be like, really, who would want to wait and go back forth, back forth? That would not be fun. So I understand why he lashed out with f5. Still dubious though. Queen c3, king f7. That was a mistake. Better would have been king to h7, and then rook d3, rook d to d7. Kind of just there. Black's holding on by the skin of his chinny chin chin, basically. Queen d4, rook d8. Again, he's having to pass the move. Oops, wrong. My bad there. This rook comes over, and now we have we've put the queen here. It looks like, what have you done? No, this queen's actually really good along here, and potentially we're getting ready to challenge along the 7th as well. Okay, there. 87. This was the best option for Ashley Black to have played. This is optimum for white and optimum for black, but black missed it. Rather than play king to h7, he played king f7, and basically he got annihilated here. The start of the annihilation started with rook to c7. Rook comes back. We take. He takes. Bishop takes check. Boom. We won the pawn. Rook takes, and rook to c7 and queen d2. Now we're up an entire pawn. If everything trades down, we have a pretty good domination of the center. So we're doing really good. The key decisive fact is the extra pawn. This is a breeze for white, basically. White will just play rook to d6 and eyeball a6 and g6. Then next, after here, when the rook comes over, we can actually play queen to d6 or d5 check, and then next get our queen to c6, and then we'd have a battery on the 6th rank. So E. D, then there. King comes in, queen C, check. He lets him do what he wants. White's just doing exactly what he wants. Now we're threatening to pick the queen up. So king f7 and then d4, and black decided to cash in his cards because there's no way he's going to lose the queen. If he goes there, check. If he goes there, check. If he goes here, we could play a check here. Let's see, that is an interesting move. What happens if he plays here? Oh, my bad there. What was I thinking? You don't have to check there. Just take this pawn. And then he still loses the queen. So even more disaster. And he resigned at this point. Let's sum up this. Okay. Let's go back to the point at which there was a huge change. Okay, e6. The e6 line of the Slav defense must be either black must either endure a bad bishop, a light square bishop, and be willing to kind of play around that and somehow try to get it traded off. So if black goes in this, he's got to be ready to know that his light square bishop's going to be horrible. So he's just got to be ready for that. And potentially an isolated pawn might arise out of this. And if you don't prefer isolated pawns, then you would not want to go down this route. So now we're going to go into our puzzles. And one second, I'll check one thing. Perfect. Okay, I'll be right back. I'll put on the puzzle. So I'll just be right back, guys. So look at the puzzle, put in the notes and the stuff, and we'll go over it. So G4, let's see. Looking at G5. You mean G4? Because it's from black side. Oh, I'm sorry. That's B4. Sorry, you're right. It's still G. Yeah, G5. You're right. You're right. G5. Yeah. Yeah. For some reason I was thinking the other way, but G5 could be playable here. I'm thinking it might be bishop takes. If I'm kind of getting the vibe that it might be, well, let's see, bishop takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, queen takes, and then we're up a whole piece. Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's the idea there. Because this allows for, and then when we take back and he takes, he still has this attack. And this attack here. So I believe you're right. The bishop takes here, bishop takes, and then pawn G5 is very clean. Let's go for that. The other way, if we played here, he could actually play knight takes. When pawn takes, bishop takes, we have a pin here. We also have an attack here, and we could try to retreat out, but we still have this pin. And so maybe, yeah, so takes. It's equal. But if we take here, he takes, and then we play there, we win a clear piece, like what you're saying, yeah. Hold on 1 sec, just gotta check, see how our stream thing's doing. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, but not as bad. We're still we pick up a piece for just one pawn. He'd get 2 pawns and our king would be exposed. This way we get a piece for 1 pawn, so we don't lose. We're not down 2 pawns, we're down 1, and our king isn't exposed to the world. Okay, let's see here. Trying to see if bishop to c2 isn't anything. Because I'm looking at if bishop c2, and move this book over here, bring my keyboard a little closer. Bishop c2, if queen takes b4, queen takes b4, a takes b4, and then bishop takes d1. I believe that's the potential line that I was looking at. So bishop here, queen takes, pawn takes, and then this takes there. But then he has a check here that would pick up our bishop. So I'm not sure if we actually accomplish anything in that line. I have to re-put this in. Forgot one other. I gotta repaste this. There's one more, and then bishop to b5, check. King moves, and then rook would take d1. So here you get 2 bishops for the piece, for the rook. So is that enough? Oh, my bad, miscalculation there. I think okay, then your line's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. He can't take there. Silly me. He could just take with the pawn and with the knight. But I do believe that this is the move, though. I do believe that's the move. I think that's the only move that makes any sense. I do believe bishop c2 is the correct move, though. Because then after, after this line here, yeah, perfect. You put in the right line. Bishop takes A, yeah. What do you think? I think bishop c2 is the only move that has any teeth in that line. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, so let's give it a go. Oh. Huh. Wow. Let's see why this move doesn't work. There has to be a reason why this doesn't work. Let's see. Oh. Ouch. Ouch. Hold on. Let's see how we're doing here. Perfectos. I think I could do one or two more of these, then I gotta log. Come on, let's do this right. Let's do this right. Okay, we're only. I found out that with the more times it's been viewed, the less points you get. So don't be surprised if we only get like one or two if we solve this. Okay, don't be surprised about that. What in the world? What's all this about? What is all this about? What in... Oh, you want to see? Okay, gotcha. We'll go back really quick. Sorry. I was in the fray. Hold on, let's do this. So you're thinking, what would happen if B takes C? Bishop takes check. King comes up, and then the knight comes there, and it's threatening mate, so the queen has to trade its life off for the piece. Okay, gotcha. So bishop takes G. Okay. So bishop takes G. Knight takes D4. Check. King D2. Okay, yeah. King D3. Yeah, I was wondering about that. That's okay. Hey, you know what? We're all learning here. Don't worry. So here, there, King D3. Ah, gotcha. But that still, no, that doesn't lose a piece, does it? I have to agree. I believe we take like what economy would say is bishop takes G4. If he what do we he goes like this. What do we do when there's material? Take the material. Do you see that? We take. If he plays there, there. Can he check us anymore? Nope. But he gets that. But that's we're fine. We're not worried about that because we can take his bishop if we need. This is our time to get the queen. What do you think, Fox? I'm thinking Bishop takes g4 in this line. I'm going all in. That's the most forcing line. You got a line? Okay. Let's see it. Just gotta check to see what time it is. Perfect. Okay, we're waiting to see what Fox's line is real quick, so if you're wondering what we're doing, I just want to see what Fox has for a line. So what's the line, Fox? What's the line? Do you have the line put in? Bishop takes, knight takes c4, e5, rook takes g, f takes g2, king e1, knight e3. Okay. Queen d3, knight c2, forcing queen takes c3, otherwise it's mate. But I gotta tell you, if we don't take, he's got the bishop, he's got queen here, and it will lead to mate. So we're forced to take, guys. There's nothing, we're forced to actually take. In this line, we're forced. Do you kind of have an idea then what we're gonna play? So I'm kind of stumped here. Something's telling me still. So what do you think, Fox? Is it bishop takes queen, or d takes g5? King d2 3 loses the queen. This one here loses the queen. This here loses the queen. And so the only move that is playable, yeah, king to e2 is the only move that that's playable. There we go. We'll do one more, and then I gotta log. Let's get this right, guys. Let's do it to it. Oh, you want to get the puzzle number? Okay, hold on. 91402. Let's see. Oh, I have 2 9s. How did I get 2 9s in there? 914. There you go. Okay. Yeah, but think about this. He has to prove to win the queen back, so he's going to have to work with his minor pieces. And we have enough minor pieces around our king that merits holding. Oh, in this line, yeah, you're down 2 pawns. Interesting. Well, bishop takes, and then rook takes. We'd be out material in this line. I'm gonna have to agree with bishop takes f5 in some lines. Is there better? One second. Well, I believe if we took here, he played bishop there, we do have potential rook here, that if rook takes there, we can, maybe rook to b4. Rook b4. It threatens to check, and it also, so rook b4. Remember the idea that we're talking about of that after this takes here. This move here prepares for this take. Maybe we just retreat all the way back. We could take here. We could take here. And if he plays bishop there, we could just retreat our rook all the way back to c1. If we did that, we'd take there. So if we, okay, let's say we take here, takes here, he plays here, we could actually just retreat rook c1. It's an interesting idea too. That's very playable. So here, there, takes, king takes. We then slide our rook over, check, king goes back, and we grab the rook. Interesting. I kind of like that idea. That's very interesting. So bishop takes f5. Nice. If bishop d5, bishop takes h1, h7, and if king takes h7, rook h4 check, king moves, and then rook takes e7, and we pick up a piece. Nice idea there. You gotta love that. And then even at this point here, let's pull this up again. If bishop takes, we're going to take this part out here. If king h8, then we could play rook to h4 still. Rook takes e1, and then bishop bishop to g6, maybe g6, or would it be, nope, it'd be e, no, yeah, Bishop E4. When that'd be, sorry, and that I have to put a check on. Just put a check on E4. So bishop takes here, bishop there, bishop takes, king f8, rook, rook f4, check, k8, bishop to bishop g6, check, but I think we still win in this line by this. Copy. Bishop takes, take, bishop takes, king, rook, rook there. Okay. Bishop g6, bishop g6. If rook takes rook takes f5, then rook to e8 is mate. It's mate. If we play here, he plays there. We take, king moves over, check, rook moves over, bishop there, rook takes, and rook to e8 is mate. Hey, how you doing? So let's go with let's see if so let's go with it. I'm thinking it's let me see. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Or no, we can't even do that. Yeah, it has to be bishop takes. Oh. Ah. That's okay. We'll call it on this. That's fine. Hey, we learned a lot. That was an interesting one for sure. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on this? It's okay. I should have taken a second to calculate. It's alright. Because then he could take there, we take there. Bishop there, you check. King comes up, push. Rook goes there, you move over. He's forced to take. And then you play there. If he doesn't, if he plays bishop here, you can actually queen. Bishop takes, rook takes, and bishop takes. And you erase the whole thing. Yeah. Guys, have any questions on this before I log off? Okay, as long as it's nice and it applies to chess, I'll be more than happy. And it's not a personal question, of course. How would you convert this? It's 3 versus 2. In this one. Show how to convert. Okay. Here. Let's take a look. Let's go for it. Let's see. Okay, here. Replace there. You just dominate the board like that. If he comes forward. Had to think for a second. There you go. You just you blockade this pawn, and then when the only move he could do is pawn push, push, push. Then you take, his king moves, you move the bishop, and you basically just queen. And even if he tries to get away, let's say he tries to get away, you can actually hunt him down. Check. Oops, you can't do that. That would be bad. Stalemate. Stalemate. We don't want that. So more likely that. Now he has to come back. And then you play there. He comes here. You deprive him of space. and then you can either do mate this way, or mate that way. You could do it 3 ways. You have queen g7, queen h8, and mate here, or mate there. You have mates everywhere. You can mate there, and you can mate there. Oh, yeah. And then D. Sorry, there's 5 ways. Mate here, here, and there. So these are the 5 mating squares that you. Yep, 5 mating squares. You got it. 5 of them. Well, E7. Yeah, you could mate here. I guess you could mate there too. So you have so many different mates. You could even mate here. You can even play there. Oops, sorry, not there. You can mate there. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. So are you guys all good? I'll take that as I'll give you guys 1 minute to see if you have anything else, but it has to be efficient because I only have like a minute or so. So I'll do my best to answer in a minute. So I'll give you guys 1 minute starting now if you guys have any questions. And funny. You know what? Lord's given me the ability to help the chess community, and that's what matters. So I want to help you guys out. Let's see here. So there takes instead of there. Okay, you want to see what happens with the let's see, d4. Okay, then bishop takes. Gotcha. We'll turn on the engine. Then we check, like what you're saying. We played rook intercepts and here, and then if he takes, which would be nice, we get a mate. That's what I was talking about. So bishop, it'd end up a draw. It's going to end up a draw, and it's slightly better for black in this line. Okay. Let's see here. You're wanting to see. Oh, d3. Okay, d3. Oh, bishop takes. Okay. He moves his king up. You check. And goes there. Takes. And you're still slightly up. This is kind of the line that it would arise to. There. And now you're threatening mate. Yeah. Okie dokie. Okay, I think, did I answer everybody's question on this position? Fox, did I answer your question? Okay, I'll give you 1 minute to respond yes or no, and then I have to log. Okay, I will take that as an Abdu. Okay, guys, thank you all for logging on. We did good. You know what? We learned a lot. Got to keep pushing forward. We got to remember what Bruce Lee said. There are no limits. There are plateaus, but you must not stay there. You must go beyond it. Also, we have to apply another quote. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. So you know what? When you reach the plateau, remember, don't stay there. Maurice Ashley said, love the plateau for a while, and then keep moving up from there. So we always got to remember what Hannibal Smith said, that a plan's only good when you're the one who's directing it and you know what your opponent's going to do 3 to 4 moves ahead. That's a plan. And so you know what? We have to leave with that. And there's a hurricane that's going to be hitting in the Gulf of Mexico, and so pray for all the lower states that they're safe. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers, that nobody gets hurt during the hurricane. Okay, and so I guess that's all for tonight, guys. And I hope all that. And I wanted to add one more thing. Remember, the person that hung up their hat, hung up their coat, and did the thing that no one said could be done, we can do that too as well. Okay, as Wesley So says, through the Lord Jesus, as I say, God bless, and I'll see you guys next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, guys, and you know what? Keep pushing forward. You're doing great. Lord willing, I'll be back on, and we'll study some more with our studies. And if you guys got games, bring them, and more puzzles. And you know what? We're just going to continue to keep learning. Okay, be blessed, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.